Alright, back for another installment of a video lesson. Today we're going to be discussing sets and Venn diagrams and how we can use a Venn diagram to help us identify different portions of a set. To begin our discussion, we have a very simple formula that says the number of elements in A union B is equal to the number of elements in A plus the number of elements in B minus the intersection. And the reason this formula works is if we take everything that's in A, that's our red part, and we add everything that's in blue, then we have an overlap. This portion gets counted twice. So we have to subtract off that overlap to get the amount of elements that are in A or B. We're going to use this formula to help us identify specific portions of the set and answer questions based off of different application problems. So here's our first problem. We have coffee drinkers, and in a survey of 100 people, 37 people like sugar, while 45 like cream, and 27 like both. How many like sugar or cream is the question. So what we want to do is identify our numbers and try to associate which set they go with. So if we look at the first number, we have 37 people like sugar. They just like sugar. That's all we know about them. So that's going to be down here below the number of people who like sugar. The number of people who like cream is 45. And we also know that 27 like both. So you can subtract 27. And once you've done this calculation, you will then get the number of people who like sugar or cream. And so we get the number of people who like sugar or cream is equal to 55. Alright, we have another problem about coffee drinkers. In a different survey of 100 people, 7 like sugar, 67 like sugar or cream, and 24 like both. Those are our important numbers. So we're going to identify what set they belong to. 37 people like sugar, so it's going to go right below our sugar set. And then we know 67 people like sugar or cream, so that is part of the union of our sets, which means it's going to be under the sugar or cream. And finally, we know that 24 like both, which means they like sugar and cream. So we're going to subtract 24. What we don't know in this instance is the number of people who like cream. So that's our x value. Doing some quick math, we get 67 is equal to 13 plus x. And if you subtract 13 on both sides, then we get 54 is equal to x, which means there are 54 people who like cream. Alright, I want you guys to go ahead and try this one. So read the problem, fill out the formula, and then solve for the missing variable. Hit pause now and try that. Okay, so looking at our problem, 23 people like sugar, so they're going to go down with our sugar set. And 57 people like cream, so you're going to go down here with the cream. And we also know that 68 like sugar or cream. That or implies that it is our union, so we get 68. And then what we don't know is how many people like sugar and cream. The and implies it's the intersection, so that's going to go down here. Doing some math, we get that 68 is equal to 78 minus x. If I subtract 78 on both sides, we get negative 10 is equal to negative x, which means that there are 10 people who like sugar and cream. We could do each one of those problems by filling out a Venn diagram if you didn't want to use your formula. When you're filling out a Venn diagram, you always start with the intersection. So we know there are 5 people that are in sets A and B at the same time. What that means is the very middle is going to have 5 people. Working backwards, we know that there are 36 people in all of set B, which means that this middle number, the 5, plus the outside number have to add to be the 36. If we already counted 5 of that 36, that means that we have a remaining 31 to be counted. For set A, we know there's a total of 17. So again, the 5 plus the other number have to add to be all of set A, so it has to add to be 17. If I subtract 5 from 17, then we get that there is 12. And if we know that there are 70 elements in the whole set, then we subtract the 3 things inside of our circles to get the remaining portion on the outside. So 70 minus 12 minus 5 minus 31 is going to give us 22 people on the outside. So again, just to reiterate, whenever we are trying to solve or trying to fill out a Venn diagram, you start from the very middle, fill that out, and then subtract that number from the sets to figure out the remaining portions. Alright, so let's look back at our coffee drinkers. Of the 100 coffee drinkers, we know that 70 of them take sugar, 60 take cream, and 50 take both. So we're going to start with the fact that we know 50 take both. That means that they take sugar and cream. So that's going to be our middle portion of the Venn diagram. To figure out the outside portions, if we know that there are a total of 70 that take sugar, then we're going to subtract this 50 from that 70 to figure out what's left over on the outside. And we will get that there are 20. After we've done that, to figure out the outside portion for cream, then we would again take this 50, subtract it from the 60 that take cream, and we get that there are 10. Now what these numbers mean are 50 of them again take sugar and cream. These 20 have sugar only, which means they don't use cream. And these 10 take cream only, since they're outside that intersection. And then we know those 100 coffee drinkers, if we add in these three numbers together, we get 80, which means we have a total of 20 who basically drink their coffee black because they don't have sugar or cream. And now we can answer the question. So the question is, how many people take sugar or cream? That or again implies that they could have sugar or cream or both. So we're going to add them all of our numbers within our circles to get a total of 80 people that take their coffee with sugar or cream. Let's see what you guys can do. Here's another problem. I want you to try and fill out the Venn diagram and then answer the questions. So go ahead and hit pause now and attempt the problem. Okay, so we have some important numbers here. We know there's 200 people total. Of those 200 people, 100 of them go to the Summer Olympics. 60 of them are going to go to the Winter Olympics. And 40 are going to go to both. So when we're filling out a Venn diagram, again, we're going to start with those who did both. So 40 of them did both, which means that's going to be our very middle. To figure out those that went to the Summer Olympic Games only, we would look at the total that went to the Summer Olympics, which was 100, and subtract our 40, so subtracting this 40 from 100, to get that there would be 60 went to the Summer Olympic Games only. For the Winter Olympic Games, we're going to do the same thing, so we take this 40 and subtract it from the 60 that went to the Winter Olympic Games. And when we do that, we get that there are a total of 20 who went to the Winter Olympic Games only. And finally, if we had a total of 200 people, we had 200 and we've already counted a total of 120, that means there are 80 people that are in this club that did not go to the Winter or Summer Olympic Games. So now we can answer our questions. They went to at least one of these two games. So that means they could have gone to the Winter Olympic Games or the Summer Olympic Games or both. So we have all three of our numbers to add together, giving us 120. Exactly one of the games. So they only went to the Winter or they only went to the Summer Olympic Games. So we have the 60 and the 20, giving us 80. They went to the Summer Olympic Games only. So again, that would be just this group. And then lastly, we have those that went to none of the games. So that's the outside portion. Alright, there you have it. So unfortunately for you, anything that we do with 2 sets, we also apply to 3 sets. So we're going to take this information here, talking about 3 different brands of items that were bought, and we're going to fill out a Venn diagram and then answer some questions about it. So let's go ahead and look at the next slide and get that done. Alright, so again, when we try and fill out our Venn diagrams, we always start with the very, very middle. In this case, those who bought brand A, B, and C. And we know that there are 8 of them. So we have 8 in the very middle. As we move out, we're looking at the intersection of A and B. So that is this section here. This whole section has to add to be 15. We already have 8 of those 15, so by subtracting that, we figure out that there is a total of 7 above that. Looking at the intersection of A and C, that is this area here. So again, we have 8 of those. There's a total of 10, which means we have a remaining 2 that haven't been counted. And if you look at the intersection of B and C, there's a total of 12. So this area where B and C intersect, has to add to be 12. We've counted 8 already, so the remaining that's left over is 4. Now we can work our way out to the big sets. So if I know that there is a total of 29 elements in A, this whole circle has to add to be 29. So looking at these three values, we have a total of 17. If I subtract that 17 from 29, we get the remaining 12 people. Repeating that process for set B, I know set B has to add to be 38. We have a total of 19 people here. So if I subtract 19 from 38, then we get the remaining 19 people. And last but not least, for set C, we had a total of 44 people. Looking at our portion here, we have counted 14 already, which means that there is a remaining 30. And then finally, if we subtract the total amount of people from the initial survey, then we would get that there is a remaining 38. And now we can answer some questions. So our first question is, how many people buy at least one of the products? So to answer how many people buy at least one product, we have everybody who bought 1 or 2 or 3 products. So basically everybody who is inside of one of these circles. If we add up all those numbers together, then we get there's a total of 82 people. For our second question, we want to know how many people buy A and B, but not C. So look at this first part. A and B implies the intersection. So I'm looking right here, A and B. And then it also says not C. So I have to cross off this 8 because it is part of C. So there are only 7 people who buy A and B, but not C. And then lastly, how many people buy none of the labels? Well, that's just the people on the outside, so we have a total of 38 there. Alright, this concludes our notes. Go ahead and start the homework. Good luck.